All right, so ready to dive deep into the world of therapy today.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is kind of like we're going behind the scenes of those therapy sessions.
Those super personal 50-minute sessions where people, unpack their entire lives.
Exactly. And our guide for this journey.
Our guide is Lori Gottlieb's book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
It's so good.
Yeah.
She's a therapist, right? And she takes us inside her own therapy journey.
Wait, so she's in therapy herself?
Yep. Alongside all the stories of her patients, so it's like double the insight.
Whoa, that's meta.
It is. It's like seeing how the sausage gets made, but for therapy.
Okay, I'm hooked already.
So what are we hoping to get out of this deep dive today?
Good question.
I think for me, it's those aha moments about how therapy actually works.
Yeah, totally. And seeing how all of our struggles are like connected.
Exactly. And maybe it'll get you thinking about your own journey, too.
Love that. So picture this, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Lori, she's a successful therapist, doing the work herself, and then, bam, out of nowhere, breakup.
Oh, no.
Yeah, totally blindsided her.
Uh-oh.
And suddenly she's the one on the therapist's couch.
Makes you realize therapists are just people, too, huh?
For real. And she's struggling with this feeling.
Like, what kind of feeling?
Like half her life is over?
Ooh, I felt that.
And she ends up seeing this therapist named Wendell, and he is not your typical therapist.
Oh, how
So
so?
instead of that soothing music and like abstract art everywhere,
Right.
his office is decorated like grandma's hand-me-downs.
Wait, seriously?
I'm talking doilies, maybe some porcelain figurines.
You're kidding.
Nope. You can practically hear an antique clock ticking away in the background.
That is not what I picture when I think therapy session.
Right. But it gets even better.
Oh, do tell.
Wendell, he uses humor and silence and sometimes even bursts into song.
He sings during therapy.
Uh-huh. To like guide Lori toward introspection.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm intrigued, but also a little terrified.
Right. So did this like totally unconventional approach actually work for Lori?
It did. And through her sessions with Wendell, she starts to see her own patterns and blind spots, especially when she's interacting with her patients.
Oh, I get that.
Like sometimes you need to see those things reflected in others to really recognize them in yourself.
100%. So who are some of these patients Lori's working with?
Well, there's this one guy, John, super successful TV producer.
Oh, I know the type. Thinks he's too good for therapy, probably.
Kind of, yeah.
He's
He
like-
comes in with this air of arrogance,
Figures.
and he's blaming everyone else for his problems, never himself, of course.
Classic.
And get this, he pays Lori in cash
What? Why?
to keep the therapy sessions secret from his wife.
Whoa, red flag alert. Why is he being so shady about it?
He's creating this whole mistress dynamic.
What? Like his therapy is the other woman?
Pretty much. It's a secret part of himself that he's hiding from his wife.
That's messed up.
And it brings up all these questions about trust and intimacy in their relationship.
Totally. And I think this is where that double insight thing comes in, right?
Exactly. Because as Lori's listening to John, she starts to see a little bit of herself in his behavior.
Huh. Interesting.
Remember how Lori was feeling like half her life was over after the breakup? Both she and John, they're struggling with this sense of incompleteness.
And using all these defenses to like cope with it.
Exactly. It's like a reminder that we all have our own unique struggles, you know?
Absolutely. But underneath, the emotions can be surprisingly universal.
100%.
Okay, so we have John, Mr. Big Shot TV producer, hiding his therapy like it's a deep, dark secret.
Right.
Who else does Lori have on her patient roster?
Well, there's Julie. She's a young newlywed,
Okay.
and she's just been diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh, wow, that's heavy.
It is.
It is.
And before the diagnosis, she was all about adventure, living life to the fullest.
So how's she coping with this news?
Well, she starts this bucket list project.
Makes sense. Gotta make the most of the time she has left.
Yeah, but it's more than just checking things off a list. It's about how she approaches those experiences, you know?
Okay, I'm curious. What do you mean?
Like, there's this scene where she decides to dye her hair blonde.
Really? Just because?
Just for the experience of it. It's like this act of rebellion against expectations.
I love that.
It's her way of embracing the present moment on her own terms.
So powerful.
Right. So we have
Yeah.
John hiding from his truth, Julie facing hers head on.
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin almost.
And then there's Rita. She's an octogenarian.
Okay.
And she walks into Lori's office battling loneliness and thoughts of suicide.
Wow. That's tough.
It is. And she has this long history of difficult relationships.
It's like a reminder that these struggles can hit at any age, right?
Absolutely.
We often think of this stuff as like a young person's problem.
Right, but it can be just as real and painful for someone in their 80s.
Totally. So we have Lori, the therapist in therapy, John, the successful guy with secrets, Julie embracing life, and Rita looking for connection later in life.
You got it.
I'm sensing some serious unfinished business vibes here.
You're picking up on a key theme. Gottlieb weaves this idea of unfinished business throughout the book. Meaning how past experiences can, like, haunt us, even years later.
Shaping our present relationships and choices.
Exactly. It's like those unresolved issues become baggage.
That we carry around with us, impacting how we interact with the world.
And the people in it.
So how does therapy help them deal with this unfinished business?
That's what we'll explore further in part 2 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned to find out how to unpack those emotional suitcases we all carry.
Because trust me, we all have them.
Okay, so we left off talking about unfinished business.
Right, that whole idea that past experiences can kind of linger, shaping our present relationship.
And choices. It's like, how do we unpack those emotional suitcases?
Well, Gottlieb talks about this concept called repetition compulsion.
Repetition compulsion. Okay, that sounds intense.
It is. It's basically like we're on autopilot, recreating the same patterns and dramas in our lives.
Even if they're painful.
Yep, even if they're painful.
Okay, I need an example. This repetition compulsion thing is kind of blowing my mind.
Okay, so picture this. One of Lori's patients, Charlotte, she keeps dating these emotionally unavailable men.
Oof, I know the type.
Right, and she's doing it subconsciously, hoping to finally get that love and validation.
That she didn't get from her parents.
Exactly. She's trying to rewrite the past by picking partners who resemble those who hurt her before.
Whoa, so she's stuck in this loop, hoping for a different outcome.
But playing the same broken record, yeah.
That's so relatable. I think we've all been there, right?
Totally. It's a common human experience.
Trying to fix something from the past by recreating it in the present.
Hoping for a different ending, yep.
And therapy can help us break free from these patterns.
That's the goal. But it's not always easy.
No, I imagine not.
Remember John, the TV producer? He was super resistant to digging into his past.
Oh, yeah. He was all about bootstraps and quick fixes.
Exactly. He didn't want to touch that emotional baggage.
But Wendell, Lori's therapist, he kind of gently nudged him towards self-awareness.
He did. He helped John see how those childhood experiences were shaping his current behavior.
Like his fear of vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments of connection when we can link the past and present.
That real change can happen.
Totally. Oh, and speaking of powerful moments in therapy,
Yeah.
Gottlieb talks about the power of silence.
Silence. You mean like those awkward moments when nobody knows what to say?
Kind of, but it's more than just awkward silence.
Okay, I'm skeptical, but go on.
Think about it. In our everyday lives, we're constantly bombarded with noise and distractions.
True, very true.
We rarely give ourselves the space to just be still, to reflect.
So silence in therapy is like creating that space.
Exactly. It's like creating a vacuum when you remove the air.
Things start to shift and move differently.
Yes. It allows those deeper emotions and insights to surface.
Like letting the dust settle so you can see things more clearly.
Yeah, I like that. But remember John, the TV producer, he hated the silence.
Of course he did. Mr. I have all the answers. Probably couldn't handle a quiet moment.
He wanted to fill every moment with words, avoid those deeper feelings.
Well, silence can be exposing, can it?
It can. It's like all your flaws and insecurities are on full display.
Exactly. But you're saying those moments of discomfort are actually important.
They are. They're where the breakthroughs happen.
So it's not about avoiding the hard stuff. It's about creating space for it to emerge.
That's the idea. And even Lori, she had her own struggles with silence in therapy.
Oh, really?
There's this scene where she spends most of the session crying, unable to even speak.
Wow.
But it's in that shared silence with Wendell that she's able to process her grief.
So powerful.
Right. Sometimes words aren't even necessary.
It's about that shared space, that unspoken understanding.
And speaking of vulnerability, we have Julie's story, facing terminal cancer.
Oh man, Julie, her story really got to me.
It's heavy stuff.
Facing such a difficult situation, but still embracing life.
So inspiring.
And her bucket list, it wasn't just about checking things off.
It was about how she approached those experiences with intention.
And a newfound appreciation for each moment.
Exactly. And it's interesting how her story connects with Lori's own health concerns.
Oh, right. Lori started having those mysterious symptoms.
The doctors couldn't explain.
And it seemed like Julie's diagnosis brought up all these fears for Lori.
About mortality, yeah.
Like, those fears were always there, simmering beneath the surface.
And Julie's situation brought them to the forefront.
Whoa, that's deep.
It's a subtle parallel, highlighting how interconnected our lives are.
How one person's experience can resonate with another, even if their circumstances are totally different.
Right. It's a reminder that we're not as alone as we sometimes feel.
We're all part of this bigger human experience.
Exactly. And Julie's bucket list, it also brings up the idea of impermanence.
That nothing stays the same forever.
Exactly. And Gottlieb explores this in relation to our mortality, our relationships, even our careers.
It's easy to forget that our time here is limited.
We get caught up in the day-to-day, in routines and deadlines.
And future plans, and we forget to appreciate the present moment.
But acknowledging that impermanence can actually be liberating.
Liberating? How so?
It helps us appreciate the present moment more fully, make choices that align with our values.
And let go of things that no longer serve us.
Yep. It's like that saying, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
I love that. So we've talked about John, Julie. What about Rita, the octogenarian who is feeling suicidal?
Oh, Rita, her story is amazing. It really challenges those assumptions about aging.
Like that life is over after a certain point.
Exactly. Rita proves that's just not true.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued what happens with Rita.
That's where we'll pick up in part 3 of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
All right, so where did we leave off with Rita?
Right, she was feeling pretty isolated and hopeless, even thinking about suicide.
Yeah, it's tough to imagine starting over at 80.
You would think, but actually, things start looking up for her.
Really? How?
Yeah. Well, remember how she was trying to, fill that void in her life?
Yeah, she was going to the Y, right?
Exactly. And that's where she meets Myron.
Ah, so this is where the romance comes in.
You got it. But at first, she kind of dismisses him.
Oh, why that?
She sees him as just another member of what she calls the octogenarian brigade.
The octogenarian brigade? That's hilarious.
Right. But despite her initial judgments, they start talking, sharing stories,
Yeah.
and a spark ignites.
Ah, that's so sweet. It's like proof that you can find love at any age.
Totally. But it's not all smooth sailing. For Rita, remember, she's got a lot of baggage from past relationships.
Yeah, those difficult relationships that left her feeling hurt and alone.
Exactly. And that's where those patterns of self-sabotage come in.
Even though she's happy with Myron?
Yeah, even though she's genuinely enjoying his company, she starts overthinking things.
Looking for signs of rejection.
Yep, and almost pushing him away.
Ah, I know that feeling all too well.
Right. It's that fear of getting hurt again.
Like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly.
So how does she break free from those self-sabotaging tendencies?
Through therapy, she starts to recognize those patterns,
Becomes aware of them.
Yeah, and she learns to separate her past experiences from her present reality.
Realizes that Myron isn't those other men who hurt her.
Exactly. And as she does that, she starts making different choices.
Like what?
She communicates her needs more openly, allows herself to be vulnerable.
And starts to actually enjoy the relationship.
Without that constant fear. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like she's reclaiming her life, showing it's never too late to start over.
Absolutely. And her story really highlights the power of therapy to heal those old wounds,
To help us change those destructive patterns.
and create more fulfilling relationships, for sure.
It's like Rita's journey underscores the importance of connection, too.
Oh, absolutely. That deep human need to feel seen and heard.
Understood, yeah.
And, all of Gottlieb's patients, they're seeking connection in some form.
Even Lori herself.
Exactly. Whether it's with a partner, a therapist, even a group of strangers. We all crave that sense of belonging.
And when those connections are missing,
It can really impact our well-being.
mentally and physically.
It's like loneliness and isolation. They could be as harmful as smoking or obesity.
Seriously.
It's a silent epidemic, really.
So connection isn't just like a nice to have, it's essential.
Essential for our health and happiness, absolutely.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
And Rita's story is like a reminder that those connections can come from unexpected places.
You don't have to have it all figured out to find love and belonging.
Exactly. And you know what's really cool about this book?
What's that?
Gottlieb ties all these individual stories together with these bigger themes. like impermanence, resilience.
The search for meaning.
It's not just about individual therapy sessions. It's about the whole human experience.
It's like she's zooming out, showing us the big picture.
We're all just navigating this messy, beautiful, ever-changing thing called life.
And therapy can help us navigate those changes.
Embrace the unknown, find meaning in the chaos. Yeah.
So it's not about achieving some, like, perfect state of being.
It's about learning to ride the waves.
To adapt, to grow, and to find those moments of joy along the way.
Beautifully said. And it's through those shared experiences, those moments of vulnerability and connection,
That we truly come alive.
Exactly.
I think you've perfectly captured the essence of maybe you should talk to someone.
Oh, thanks.
It's not just a book about therapy, it's a book about life, about being human.
And finding those connections that make the journey worthwhile.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to think about these themes in your own life.
Ooh, good idea.
What patterns are you repeating? Where are you holding back from vulnerability?
What brings you joy? What makes you feel truly alive?
Those are the questions to ponder.
Big questions, but important ones.
And maybe, just maybe, exploring those answers will lead to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep seeking those connections that make life worth living.
I love that.